Objective. This presentation will explore how students can bridge their CSEC English language and literature skills with the school-based assessment by dissecting effective reflection techniques. We will guide students through connecting textual, analysis, and grammatical precision directly to their SBA requirements, ensuring that they articulate their understanding with clarity and adapt for distinction level performance. Specific objectives of this presentation are as follows. 1. To make students aware of the changes that have been made regarding reflections 1 and 2. 2. To discuss how students may describe their prior knowledge regarding their topic. 3. To provide examples of various language techniques and discuss their effectiveness. 4. To ensure that students are familiar with the rubric used for reflections 1 and 2. And lastly, to provide samples of reflection 1 and 2 so students will be able to master this area for their English SBA. Of the changes made from the previous syllabus include the following. 1. The number of reflections required. Students are only required to write 2 reflections instead of 3. Secondly, the word limit for the reflections. The word limit for reflections is now between 150 to 200 words for each reflection. Reflection 1. In the first entry, the students must indicate how each artifact helped to shape his or her thinking about the subtopic or theme. The responses to the following must be included in the reflection. 1. What did you know about the subtopic or theme before starting the SBA? 2. What was the main issue or idea in each of the artifacts you selected for your subtopic or theme? Thirdly, what new knowledge was gained and how did the artifacts affect your thinking on the subtopic or theme?
Moving beyond superficial checklist responses, we're dissecting how to craft English SBA reflections that truly demonstrate critical engagement and insightful self-assessment, connecting personal growth to textual analysis and communication skills. We'll explore integrating nuanced observations and evidence, ensuring reflections showcase genuine understanding and elevate overall distinction potential.
Describe your prior knowledge about a topic or theme. So words that may be utilized are as follows. 1. Knowledgeable, which means that I was aware of or cognizant of. You could use words such as limited. I had limited knowledge of. Or basic. I had basic knowledge of. Now that you have stated your prior knowledge of your subtopic, it is now time for you to gather all your artifacts. It is important that you read or examine all 3 artifacts in order for you to be able to identify the main issue or idea embedded in each of these artifacts.
The impact of poverty. High poverty rates are a cause for concern because children affected are more likely to have negative outcomes, to including diminished cognitive development, physical health concerns, and the development of mental health issues. For families in poverty often live in low-income neighborhoods in proximity to violence. Exposure to violence and other stressors increases individuals' likelihood of developing mental health issues. To Black youth are roughly 45% more likely than white youth of higher socioeconomic status to have a near-death experience. Due to the systemic racism present in public helping systems, minorities are often disproportionately affected by poverty. Access to basic necessities, such as a stable or health care, is constricted, making it more difficult for minority families to elevate themselves. 3 Minority families also experience increased exposure to racial stressors that compound financial stress, further exacerbating their struggle.
The article entitled Children and Families, The Impact of Poverty on Youth by Ashad Hips outlines the effect of poverty on the most vulnerable and its ripple effects into adulthood. These include diminished cognitive development, physical health concerns, and the development of mental health issues. I was surprised to discover the close association between poverty and mental health issues. This awareness has caused me to be more empathetic towards those living in low-income environment and more tolerant of those showcasing signs of mental health issues. Let's now turn our attention to this poem entitled Poverty, written by Jane Taylor, and it reads: Poverty. I saw an old cottage of clay, and only of mud was the floor, it was all falling into decay, and the snow drifted in at the door. Yet there a poor family dwelt, in a hovel so dismal and rude, and though gnawing hunger felt, they had not a morsel of food. The children were crying for bread, and to their poor mother they'd run. Oh then, let the wealthy and gay but see such a hovel as this, that in a poor cottage of clay. They may know what true misery is, and what I may have to bestow. I never will squander away any poor people I know. Around me are wretched as they. The poem titled Poverty, written by Jane Taylor, paints a grim picture of the impoverished living conditions of families experiencing poverty. From the dilapidated conditions of the physical home structure to pleas from hungry children, these images all evoke feelings of sympathy for those who are poor.
Almost 1 in 3 children are now growing up poor, with more and more families being pushed into poverty, even in traditionally well-off towns and cities.
Because we don't have enough money to go out and buy food all the time, we have to go to the food club.
Splitting up, losing a job, or paying for a funeral, just some of the things that mean families can struggle to afford life's essentials: food, warmth, and a place to call home.
Even though most of us are really hungry, we have to be careful with our food, so we try not to eat a lot in one day.
Dispatches ask these children to show us what life is really like if there's just not enough money.
I get worried at school because I don't know what's happening.
These children speak for more than 4 million kids who are growing up in poverty.
The video entitled No Money for Food or Clothes, Growing Up Poor gives readers insight as why some families experience poverty. It also highlights the psychological, physical, and emotional effects that it has on families. The experiences portrayed in this video has caused me to get a better understanding of effects of poverty on families.
The rubric for Reflection 1, and the score, Reflection 1, like Reflection 2, is marked out of 5. Okay, so 5 marks for an excellent reflection which discusses the previous knowledge, issues in the 3 pieces of material, and showing how each has affected the candidate's thinking about the subject or issue. Excellent can be interpreted to mean, for example, the details in the pieces prompt the students to ask questions about the truth, importance, relevance, increase his or her understanding. He or she is able to express reactions clearly in standard English. 4 marks for a very good reflection which discusses the 3 pieces of the material and shows how each has affected the student's thinking about the subject or issue. Very good can be interpreted to mean, for example, details in the pieces prompted the students to ask questions about the truth, importance, relevance, increase his or her understanding, but he or she is unable to achieve the highest level of clarity in language. 3 marks for a good reflection which addresses the treatment of the issue in the 3 pieces. A good reflection misses some aspect and may be faulty in clarity and language. 2 marks for a limited reflection which mentions and comments on very little of the content, less than half of the details in the 3 pieces. A limited reflection misses most aspect and may be very flawed in clarity and language. 1 mark, a weak reflection which simply mentions the issue. A weak reflection fails to make any meaningful comment. And of course, 0, no reflection presented and no reference to any artifact. Reflection 2. The second entry must discuss the use of language techniques in the artifacts selected. For each artifact, you must, one, identify at least one language technique used. Two, give an example of the language technique used in the artifact. And thirdly, comment on its effectiveness. Are you able to do so? Let's see. What are language techniques? Language techniques are the common methods that writers use to share their thoughts effectively. And there are several benefits of using language techniques in writing. One, they transfer thoughts into words. Two, provide artistic meaning. Three, give life to a story. Four, build a logical framework with words and language. Here are some examples of language techniques. One, facts and opinions. Figurative language. And by figurative language, we mean simile, metaphor, personification, onomatopoeia, oxymoron, hyperbole, pun, and the list goes on. Emotive language. And by emotive language, we mean words that appeal to the emotions. Statistical data, personal appeal, examples, and share your thoughts if you know of other language techniques in the comment section below. In order for you to write a comprehensive and effective reflection tool, you need to ensure that you have all three artifacts. Okay, so an example of this is seen here. Right, in Article 1, the writer gives examples of the negative effects of poverty on families. This is seen in the following sentence. High poverty rates are a cause for concern because children affected are more likely to have negative outcomes, including diminished cognitive development, physical health concerns, and the development of mental health issues. The examples given conveys the seriousness of this issue by listing the adverse effect on health. So you know, cognitive development diminished, physical health concerns, and the development of mental health issues. And that's for the articles. The article used a lot of examples. So if you go back to the presentation at the initial stage, you would have heard the examples given. Now in the poem, the poet uses visual and auditory imagery. Now, imagery is also a language technique. Examples of these are falling into decay, morsel of food, crying for bread. These imagery help to paint a grim, dismal, and hopeless picture of the effect of poverty on families. Okay, and you could also mention the use of emotive language. So if your pieces have emotive language, like decay, emotive, right? Morsel is also emotive, and crying, those are emotive words. Visit the video now. Third, artifacts. In the video, the writer uses statistical data such as 1 in 3 children are pushed into poverty, even in well-off countries, and 4 million children growing into poverty. These are effective as they show the alarming rate of poverty and they convey as well the idea that poverty is a global crisis. It's not just Jamaica. Poverty is global. All right, just that this was beneficial to you. Now, here is the rubric for reflection 2. And again, just want to repeat, reflection 2 is marked out of 5. Okay, so it's 10 marks for both reflections. All right, so score 5, that means excellent. And an excellent reflection which correctly identifies a language technique, give an example of the technique, and fully explains the language in the 3 pieces of material. Examine the language means recognizing by identifying and commenting on the different types of language used, dialect, slang, jargons, literary devices, statistics, examples. Okay, so it's important to give the example, state what the language technique is, give the example of the language technique, and also comment on its effectiveness in order for you to get those 5 marks. Now, 4 marks for a very good reflection which correctly identifies a language technique and examine most of the language in the 3 pieces of material. Very good can be interpreted to mean, for example, the student identifies and comments comment on most of the strategies used to send the message. He or she is able to use language effectively. 3 marks, a good reflection which notes and comments on some of the language in the 3 pieces of material. A good reflection misses some aspect and may be faulty in clarity and language. 2 mark for a limited reflection which mentions and comments on very little of the kind of language and the techniques used, less than half of the language in the 3 pieces. A limited reflection misses most aspect and may be very flawed in clarity and language. 1 mark for a weak reflection, which simply mentions the language used. A weak reflection fails to make any meaningful comment. And 0 mark for no reflection presented, no reference to any artifacts. So it's important, students, that you understand how to write reflections 1 and reflection 2. Okay, I trust that this presentation has been beneficial to you. If it has, remember to like, share, tell a friend, and most definitely comment.